Alright, so this is our second video. This is just going to go over everything I talked about in class for the online users. If you have any questions, if I said something too fast and you didn't know what it was, or if you run into any issues, add us in the Discord, me or Laisha. I think I'm called M on the Discord, also Sushi Wraith, and Laisha is called Rami. So we usually be in the Discord chilling anyway, so if you have questions, just let me know. Make sure y'all have this doc pulled up. I have it in the Blender tab we'll be using. Everything I'll be talking about will be here. So we're going to go over pretty much all of this. That's kind of what we're going to be talking about. Just the intro to modeling. We're going to be modeling eDoc, which Laisha or Rami, she made that little concept art here. So you can go ahead and go to the resources tab of the doc or of the Discord and save the image. It doesn't really matter where, but I would go ahead, and if you don't have the one made already, somewhere in your files, go and make a Blender tab so you can save all your documents there, and go ahead and save this as your reference. I have my Maya config add-on saved there, but we'll be saving our documents there. Okay, but I'm going to interrupt myself real quick, and once you have this file open, just ignore what I've made so far. Go up here to File, and click Save As. And since we have a Blender tab somewhere in our files, mine is in my file here, go ahead and name this eDoc, okay, and Save As. Alright, just remember Control S is saving, it's a quick save, so if you ever want to just save your progress, Control S. Blender actually makes its own backup save, so you can see like when I made my donut, it made an extra file called donut blend 1. That was because after a few minutes of working on this, it makes a backup save automatically. You can just leave those alone. This is going to be the doc you're saving on. This is going to be the backup it's making for you. So you can just leave those be. To start off, I'm going to teach you the first thing you'll need to learn, which let's just talk about the movement keys. How am I doing this? So if you're using the Maya add-on, which this whole tutorial is going to be using, is hold Alt on your keyboard, and then hold left-click drag, and that's how you rotate around your object. Alright, and then now the next one is going to be hold Alt and middle-click. That's how you pan. Then you hold Alt and right-click, and that's how you zoom. Same as Maya, so if you know Maya, this will be a lot easier, but that's about all that there is. Just remember, always hold Alt, and you can just kind of go anywhere. Get used to moving around, because you're going to be doing that a lot. So select all your objects, click X. X is delete. That's how you delete. It will tell you everything that happens at the bottom here. If you ever want to know what I'm doing, just look at the bottom. Now, let's say I want to undo that, so Control Z. Let's say I want to select it a different way. I don't like box select, so I hold up here on box select. I'm going to left click hold. It'll show you different ways to lasso select. So let's say I just wanted to select this and this. Lasso select is exactly what it sounds like. And then I can just delete those. Though the only reason I keep using box select is because sometimes I don't want to drag a circle around this to select it. I just want to swipe my mouse across the screen. So that's the plus of that. So get used to moving. Delete your stuff, undo it, all that stuff. Now for the next stuff, we're going to talk about the WER, which is how we do basic movement in this. It's our next most important keys. So once you got some panning and stuff down, select on your object, click W. It's going to bring up this. This is our gizmo, okay? And then E will bring up the rotate gizmo. And then R will be the scale gizmo. We're going to be using these pretty much everything we do. W is going to be the move or the translate tool. You can select these little arrows to translate it on an axis, so you can be very accurate. Or you can hold the circle to free move it based off of your perspective. So generally we're going to keep with the axes because we're going to be pretty precise. But you also can use these to do other ways to move it, you know. Generally, that's all you need to know about that. Rotate's the same thing. rotate on the axes. You can select this by, if you select on the outer circle, it's going to rotate based off of your perspective. So try and make sure you are very precise when selecting these, because you'll end up selecting the middle and it'll just free move it, and we don't want that. So, and then R, same thing, you can click the circle and it's going to scale the whole thing, but if you select just one side, it'll scale just one side. So get used to moving, altering, selecting, and then you can just undo all of it. Now, once y'all have that down, that's the core fundamentals, we're going to talk about the quick menus. There's 2 quick menus we use with this add-on, and it's going to be right-click, hold, this menu will come up. If you let go, it'll go away. Now what this does, this is our edit menu, okay? I guess marking menu, whatever you want to call it. If you're selected on an object and you click edit mode, it'll bring you into the edit mode, and you'll see all these editing options over here. It also will let you select all these different previews. So like I talked about in the slideshow last video, there's faces, edges, and vertices. That's what makes up our objects. The only thing you need to know about these is that object mode is going to be like our preview mode, okay? That's kind of how you see what you've been working on. If you want to actually change any part of the mesh, you need to toggle into edit mode. So we're going to go between these 2 modes quite often. Just get used to toggling between those. Usually I'll end up going into edit mode, go to vertice, I'll grab something, and I'll click W, and then I start editing it, right? And let's say I want to go back and see what it looks like before I edited it, and I'll go into object mode. But that's the main thing you need to know about the quick menu on this. We'll talk more about these other things in Isolate later when we get more complicated stuff going on. This is going to be our best friend. We're going to be in this every second we're using Blender. The next quick menu is going to be space. It's going to be our snapping menu. So if I want to snap to the front, I'll click front. If I want to snap to the back, I'll slip to back, left, right, top. Right now we have a very boring cube, nothing's going on. And then the other 2 important things you need to know about this menu, which is, again, hold space, is the perspective and orthographic view. So this is a toggle. If I click it, it sends me into orthographic, and everything's a grid now. And if I click it again, it sends me back into perspective. You can kind of see how perspective actually warps it, even though these vertices right here are exactly on top of, they're actually aligned on this axis. Because we're in a preview that's in a perspective mode, it's going to warp it like a fisheye, like a human eye would. It's really handy for like a camera model, like when you're taking camera pictures and stuff. But generally when we're modeling, especially when we're doing box modeling like in this video, we're going to do orthographic. It's sort of like a 2D view. So try and staying orthographic. You'll very quickly know which one's which because it aligns all the axes, you know. And for the most part, we're going to be toggling between the 2 while messing with this. So let's go ahead and go into object mode. Have your object selected. You can go into W if you don't want to rotate stuff in. W, E, or R. I usually stay in W. And then click X. Gone. We have no object now. We're just on a plane. And like I said, we have edoc downloaded somewhere in our files, and we're going to, our next key we're going to learn is Shift A. Shift A. Shift for add. Shift A is for add. And this is how you add any of your stuff, pretty much anything you need to add on here. And we're going to add an image. So we're going to go to image and reference. I'm going to go and I'm going to find edoc, open. And it added it based off the perspective I was looking in. So you can tell by the grid view that it's slanted, and we don't want that. Now we could just go on and we can click E and then rotate it to be perfect, but that's just not going to be accurate. So what we're going to do, this little menu over here, this is our object menu. It just tells you everything about the object you're selected on. And as you can see, the rotation over here is all messed up. What we're going to do is click backspace, backspace, backspace. Zero them all out, and it will just be laying on the grid, completely flat. And let's say I want it to stand up on the, what is this, the x-axis. So I'm going to grab this x-axis, And we're going to change it all the way here. And you can see in the rotation, the x-axis is only 86 degrees. I want to change that to 90. So now we're in 90 degrees. It's perfectly standing up. Another thing I kind of want to do is I kind of want to make the head so that it's centered in the center. So, because we're going to be modeling the head on this. So I'm just going to move it down. That's good enough. All right, now when we actually get to modeling, we want this to be transparent so it doesn't block our view. To do that, we go into this data tab. It has an image on it. And if you have your image selected, it should have this little opacity thing. Check it. And then drag it down to like maybe do 20%. Whatever you can see pretty much. And now let's hold space, snap to front. And make sure you're in orthographic. If you're in perspective, it'll look like this. Orthographic, it'll look like this. Orthographic is what we want to model in. We like orthographic. All right, now let's do another thing. Let's do Shift A. We're gonna add the mesh cube. Let's gonna click R and scale that. Let's use the big scale. Scale it down. If you're worried that you might not scale it on the right axis, just hold Alt and left click drag, and you can see the side view, and you can see it's still a perfect square. Now hold space, click front, and we're back. All right. You can see this is already lined up kind of in the middle. So I'm going to move this a little bit over. Yeah. That's how we start. So let's go ahead and scale this baby up. We're going to make the base of the head first. So once we have this scaled, let's just look at it. Let's say I want to make it thinner. Let's just make it a little thinner by going on the side axis. All right, now snap to front. I would always snap to front or you'll end up not making it even. There's other ways you can do this is down here. Like I said, this is a perspective and perspective and orthographic. Well, this is quad view. If you click quad view, it'll split your viewing into four views. And I'd go ahead and zoom in with your scroll wheel on all the stuff you're looking at. These you can edit in these. You can actually go in and edit any of the stuff in this. But if you hold Alt while in one of these previews, you can't move it because these views are hard locked to the front, the top, and the right side. So if you prefer to model, like let's say I select the face here, which we'll get into, then you can actually see it on all four views at once, which can be really handy if you like that better. I know Rami likes that better, so if you like that, you can stay in there, but I personally don't. I think it's a little cluttered looking. So I'm gonna go ahead and hold space again, get out of quad view just by re-toggling it. And remember, when you're in these quick menus, you don't actually have to click on these. You just like hover over and let go, and it'll automatically do the action. And everything's you can undo, so. Okay. So now that we're in here, let's snap to front. We can do this multiple ways to make this outline correctly, but the first thing we're going to do is in edit mode. So make sure if you're on the object, go to edit mode. Like I said, we'll have to be toggling between the two. And click vertex if you want, and you should be able to see all these points, right? If you have it selected, it should have them highlighted. But one thing you need to know about while you're in edit mode is this up here. So this is all the previews. I think Control A actually changes your previews, but there's a wireframe mode, which will show you everything transparently, but I prefer to be in the solid mode. This would be like from materials and rendering and stuff over here. We're not going to touch this yet. Now this is the most important one. Make sure you stay in solid mode. Toggle X-ray on and off depending on what you're doing. So for what we're doing, this is completely symmetrical, so we always want X-ray on. What would happen is we don't, so let's say we're in front view, right? I drag select while X-ray is on, it selects the back vertices. If I don't have X-ray on, it's only going to select what's in my view. So it's only going to select the two vertices I can see. It won't select the back ones. When you have it on, you can see a little outline behind it. You see, like where your back ones are, and you can select those. But it's very hard to tell when you're in orthographic view that you have X-ray on, just because they're lined up perfectly, and we want them to be perfectly lined up when we're working symmetrical stuff. So make sure you have it snapped to front. Make sure you have this little X-ray on, and make sure you're in edit mode. You can select on and off the object if you don't think edit mode is working, and then go to edit mode. And we're going to go over here. This is called the loop cuts. It's shift spacebar, or actually it tells you the hotkeys when you select on it, I think. Yeah, shift spacebar, control R. So I believe, let's say if I get out of bridge loop and I click shift R, oh, maybe not. I don't know, I don't use these hotkeys that much, but usually when you're in the edit preview, you'll see this mini menu. If you don't see this menu, you're probably not in the edit mode. You can always toggle the edit mode here as well. Sometimes this can actually be hidden, like the little, yeah, see, you can actually drag this and hide it. So this little arrow right here sometimes folds in on itself, and I would just drag it out. It happens on both sides, actually. If you need anything over here, you can actually drag and hide those as well. Just keep that in mind. If you feel like some of your objects are hidden, it's because this tab is collapsed. So go ahead and hit the edge loop. We're gonna left click, add it in the middle. It'll show you a little preview of a yellow line, you know. We're just gonna add this one in the middle. And you see how it's still trying to do edge loops? We don't want that anymore. We already made our edge loops, so we're gonna click Q. Q finalizes that action. You can always just toggle between the two up here, and it will stop. But Q is just kind of a faster way of doing it, so try and keep in mind edge loop, click, Q, and that's how you stop. You can also increase your edge loops over here, so if I ever wanted to make multiple edge loops at once, like if I do this, I can just increase them here. But we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to make one in the middle. Make sure you kind of have it aligned with the axis. Whatever axis you're closer to, I think, is the one it will be selecting on. So, Q. We're going to go to vertices. Okay, vertex. Which is just right-click, vertex. Drag, select these right here. And you can make sure you're actually selected on them and you're in X-ray mode, you can hold Alt and look at what they're selected. They're all selected, so go back to the front view, click X, and it's deleted. You'll see that the inside is now transparent. That's because everything you make will be like a shell, okay? Everything on the inside is broken. If we wanted to actually make this an active face that actually like is a material, we'd have to go to Edges, select it, and then fill that hole. But for this case, we're not going to do that. We actually want it to be empty because we're going to make this a mirror modifier. So go back to your object, go to front view, go to object mode, and you have to be in object mode when you're applying modifiers. You see how we have this object tab we were in? Click the modifier below it. It's the gear. And then go to add modifier and search up mirror. If your mirror modifier didn't immediately work when you looked it up, that's because your axis is on the wrong axis. So I would go ahead and change it from X to Y. Like right now, I'm on the Y axis, but if let's say I modeled it on this plane, you need to be on the Y. And if we were doing this like 4 different ways, we'd have the Y and X selected at the same time. And if I was modeling from the top, I'd have it on Z. But I'm modeling on this green axis, so it's okay to just stay on X for me. Now, if you go into edit mode from here, you'll notice there's no outline here. And when you go to vertices, oopsies, hold up. If you go to vertices, make sure you click off a little bit. The vertices aren't there. That's just because modifiers just preview what it is. Modifiers don't actually make it over here, so you can never edit this side. To actually finalize a modifier, you'd have to go to object mode again. Always have to be in object mode whenever you're messing with modifiers. And then this drop down apply. And now when you go back to edit mode, voila, it's made the other side real. But we don't want that yet, so undo. Let's just say we have my mirror modifier applied. If I go into object mode, it's going to look like it's normal. But while I'm in edit mode, you can see that only one side is actually real. Now, snap to front. Let's make this model real quick. So let's drag select these top views. Make sure you have X-ray on. Let's just drag it down. It's about right here. Okay. Let's go ahead and add 2 loop cuts. So let's do tap and then 2. Just click the loop cut tool and then click Q to get off of it. And then click vertex. Make sure you go in your quick menu, vertex, drag select. Let's hit W and we move it. So we're just going to match the outline of this. So this little guy, we're going to be doing a pretty low poly mesh, so it doesn't need to be perfect. For now, let's try and keep everything straight so that when we extrude, it won't really mess anything up. All right. Now, let's say I wanted to make this little guy down here, which is this little chin, right? Well, let's just hold Alt and go on this bottom, right? We've only been using vertexes so far, so let's go ahead and use faces. So let's go make sure you're in edit mode. Click on faces, or let go on faces. Now here's the issue with wireframe. It will try and select the ones, the faces on the back side. So sometimes you might want to turn wireframe off and just select the face you're looking at. You can actually kind of finesse it and click directly in the middle and it will click the correct face. But keep that in mind. If you're having issues, just turn off wireframe. Now click front. From here you can see that we have the bottom face selected, but what we're going to do while we have that selected is Control E. Control E is extruding, the, I don't know, third most important thing you really need to learn. It's basically going to extend that face and drag it out. Now that's a little bit different from loop cuts. It makes it a little faster. Let's say I wanted to scale it. Oh wow, now he's a double chin. Let's not do that. But for this, I may be better to whenever we extrude, so I just undid my extrude, right? And I reselect it. Click extrude, and then right click it. What happens when you right click after clicking Control Extrude is that it actually extrudes it to where it was actually at. So there's actually 2 faces on top of each other right now. And if I were to drag the one I'm selected on out, you can see that it's 2 faces. But the only reason I have that like that is because I want to click R and then drag it inwards. It's made this, I don't know, inward selection of this, which I don't exactly care for too much, but the only reason I'm doing that is to show you that I can right click R, move it over, and then let's say I want this chin to be a little bit further in. Now while selected on it, Control E and drag it out. And you can always click R again and select it and then move it over. Now I don't know if this is the best way to model this. I would say no, because one of the issues you're running into right now is that the actual face that we had dragged over has another face on the inside right there. And since this is all going to merge in, I don't think I'd actually want to do that unless it's split into 2, sort of like these horns up here. So the best way, there's several ways you can do it. Well, let's say I just don't do it that way. Let's say I do, let's see, sometimes you have to think when you're modeling a little bit, but let's just do a basic extrude, move it out, shrink it on one axis, then drag it over, and then let's add a loop cut. So right now, we still have enough quads. Let's add a loop cut right about here. Okay. And let's click Q to get out of loop cuts. Let's hold vertexes, hold the front, make sure X-ray is back on. Drag select this. Let's just W and then drag it. Like I said, there's several ways you can make this. But let's say we want to have a little bit of a curve to that chin. Let's make sure this typology is a little bit even, so I'm going to move that in. I can even, if I wanted to, just move these up. So it looks like that. This will work for now. We're not doing anything too fancy. Also, if you think you want to see the actual reference, you can actually drag it in front of your object. So now you'll be knowing what you're doing. The only issue is you might end up, when you try to select on the cube, you'll be selecting on this object. So it's not the best way to do it, but you can always reselect on the cube by selecting it in the outliner and then just switching to edit mode, and so you'll only edit the cube. So once we kind of have that dragged in front and we went to the outliner and selected it and got back in edit mode, you should be good to go. All right, now let's see, what else do we want to do? Let's start making this top head. So I'm going to drag up and go to faces. I'm going to select these top two. I'm just going to be really careful while selecting, and it should be fine like that. So Control E. All right, I'm going to go to vertexes, drag this, drag that in. All right, now we have the side of that. All right, I'm going to select these faces, shift select. Let's say I select one face and I want to select the other, just hold shift and click it and it should work. Make sure you select multiple faces, Control E again. And this is the whole fundamentals of box modeling. It's just going to be pretty much this. We're just going to be extruding and moving. Try and keep your faces kind of evenly spread. Make sure your object is perfectly symmetrical on the back side. And then we'll just keep doing that. For this, I'm just going to go ahead and do that for the horns. And this time I'm just going to shrink the whole thing and not select vertices. Control E again, shrink the whole thing, move it over, Control E again, shrink the whole thing, move it over. Let's go ahead and do this, and then Control E. And my model isn't going to be perfectly aligned with hers. It doesn't really matter that much, preference. I'm not going to make it super pointy. I think that looks fine. Now, where do we want to go from here? So usually when adding these extra pieces, I'm just going to make a new object. So I think that's good enough for the base of the head. Let's just go ahead and start modeling this object on top of it. Just going to go ahead and do Shift A, add the cube, shrink it. Be careful when you're doing that. Drag it up here. And let's move this image a little bit over because it's not perfectly centered. There we go. And then go ahead and name your base of your head. Just double click in the outliner, double click that cube. Put base head. And then on your new cube, select it. And we're just going to call this helmet piece. Call it whatever you want though. I think this is behind the object right now. I'm going to shrink it and then drag it a little bit in front like that. I think that's fine. If we want it to be super accurate, we can make it even thinner so that it's like right on top of it. Alright. Now, let's go ahead and go to edit mode, loop cut, Q. Oh, whoopsies. Don't go into isolate mode. If you accidentally click isolate, just redrag on it. It'll toggle in and out. All it does is isolate what you're looking at. Q, vertex mode. We're in vertex mode. Let's go ahead and drag select these. Make sure we have the X-ray on. And X, delete. We're going to go back into object mode. We're going to go back to that gear. Search and mirror. We're doing the exact same thing we just did. But this time we're doing it with the helmet. So, like I said, shouldn't be too bad. Go to edit mode. You can kind of see what you're looking at. If you want to, you can actually drag, select, and move it in here. I prefer just going back to the object mode and then clicking W. I think in edit mode it actually makes it a little off-centered. So I usually go to object mode and then move it. So then it'll be like this. But so let's go ahead and shimmy this thing up a little and go to faces. Let's drag out a little bit, select that face. All right, Control E. All right, and then click rotate. Y'all should be getting used to this now. All right, make it a little bit thicker. All right. Actually, so let's say we want to go back and fix one of these loops. Go to your edit mode, go to edge, double click on this edge. What that does is that if you click it once, it'll just click one edge. If you click it twice, it'll click the whole loop around it. So let's just go to front, click R, and then I can just make it a little bit thicker. That works fine. See, now I can select this whole edge, but I'll probably just select the whole face. Because I don't really want to extrude edges or vertices. I rather just extrude faces, so that makes it a lot easier. So Control E, and then this time I'm just going to go ahead and go into vertex mode. I'm going to click W. I'm going to just grab this whole thing right here and move it, because freeform might be easier than doing axes. You have to be a little careful when doing that, but you'll get used to it over time. Alright, let's go back, select this face, tog to front, Control Extrude. Now let's rotate it again. So let's click E, rotate, W to move it. And then let's Control Extrude one more time. Click E to rotate it to be about flat. And then let's just remove it up here. Let's rotate it some more. And that's about how you box model. Now, if you really want to see what you've done, go into object mode and then toggle out. We got something going on. If you want, you can even make it thinner. You just click it, click R and drag on that axis. There you go. And that should be pretty simple. I mean, we can get in other ways on how we make these actual circles here. I didn't really get into this in class, so I'm not going to go over curves yet. Like, if you Shift A, I think it works the same as Maya. You can do this little curve thing, and I'm be honest, I don't want to teach curves right now, so we're just going to box model it. The best way to do it, in my opinion, is Shift A, add a cube, right? Scale that cube down. Alright, scale it even further down. Get this eye, and go to the side view, make sure it's aligned. You can go ahead and make it thin if you want and drag it out. Yeah, now let's snap to the front. The best way I would do this is to actually go to modifiers and look up subdivide surface. This is a new modifier, which I think I'll probably get even more into in next class, because I don't think I talked about it this time. And then we're just going to go ahead and get to the viewpoint here. And we're going to raise the levels to be 2. Now what this has done is just made it a circle, or I guess an oval now. I don't really know if I want to keep it an oval, just because the rest of it is going to be very flat. If I go to edit mode, right, you'll see that it's still a square. That's because it's still a modifier. That's basically how this is going to work. If you go and apply, if you go back to object and apply, it's applied it. But for this tutorial, I'm not going to do this since we didn't do it in class. I'll just go ahead and box model this as well by Shift A, cube. Let's just go ahead and shrink it down through this. Let's do 0.1. And then drag it. Let's make it a little slanted. Let's drag it out of the mesh a little bit, so it's sticking out. And let's go ahead and select these faces. I think this is about added up, so I'm just going to go Command Extrude, make it smaller. Actually, I'm going to shrink it like this. If I select the circle while doing that, it'll actually make the entire thing go in. If I select this green box, it'll only do that axis. That's why I'm selecting the green box when I'm doing this. Alright, I'm going to move that a little down, just line it up with the drawing. And I would try to make their extruding as accurate as possible. You can extrude however you want. This is still just the test, so it doesn't need to be perfect. You can always go back and fix them. Though if you get them right the first time, it makes your life a lot easier. So let's go to edge mode. Actually, I'm going to go in vertex mode, and I'm going to go ahead and drag select some of these out because I don't like how they look. Yeah, and just make it all even. Make sure you check your side preview that it's all even on the side as well. Alright, I think that's good enough for this one. I'm going to drag select to this. Probably bring it over here a little. And then we're going to have that there. We'll deal with the eyelashes in a minute. I think this is decent enough for what we're going to do. Go to face, select this side face, Command extrude, then use this little green box. Might be a red box depending on what axis you're on. Alright, then Command extrude again. Oopsies. I think that might have, yeah, that did the whole thing, so yeah, let's just do that instead. Like I said, get really used to snapping to these axes. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier once you do. A lot of this will become muscle memory, so it's not too bad. And then just close that axis, W. Let's close it again, make it real small. Alright. Now you should have most of this ready. You can always go into vertexes and change them a little bit if you don't exactly like where they are. That's about box modeling. Let's say if I want to add these eyelashes. Let's go to... let's just go to the edge loops, actually. Let's add 2 of these edge loops. Yeah, 2 should be enough. Click Q, and then get into faces mode. Drag select. Let's take off wireframe real quick. These 2 faces. Go to front. Command extrude. Alright. Go to vertexes. And then slide it a little bit. Make sure you turn wireframe back on. I mean X-ray on, because it's gonna be all sorts of messed up if you don't. You can see where I almost messed up there. I'm probably even gonna remove some of these. Let's say I want to do it exactly like her image, then let's just do it like this. Now, there's a few different ways you can make that little middle section. I would say just go ahead and line these points up with the end of her lashes. And then we can do loop cuts. Or we could do a quad cut. For now, I'm just going to leave it as is because we haven't got into the knife tool on our tutorial. But this should be about the base of where you're at. Now, the last thing I'm going to teach you before I leave is... Oopsies. Oopsies, oopsies. Hold up. I'm on my image plane again. I selected off, now I'm on my image, so I'm just going to click that cube again. Just go ahead and name this cube eye while you're at it. Alright, now that we're object mode on this eye, right? Let's go to modifiers. So, gear tab in object mode. Mirror. Click mirror, and see how it mirrors oddly? We're going to mirror it based off the object we're on. So, go ahead and get it out of this whole image. Go a little bit to the side or something. See how it says mirror object here? Click the eyedropper and select the base head. You can always find it in the actual like tab here. What that does is it actually mirrors it based off of the center of mass of whatever object you've selected. So that makes it so you can mirror stuff that aren't axes. And that should make it perfectly. Let's say I don't want to see this image anymore. I can click it, then click hide. And now we can kind of just see our little guy. That's why I'm going to keep it for now, because we didn't get much further in the class. You can go ahead and model the eyebrows and the chin if you want to. But we're going to get into beveling and how to make it all smooth and nice looking in the next class. Hopefully this will catch anyone up who's really lost. And I'll see y'all next time. Add me in the Discord if you need me.